Everyone is talking about Piastri's fastest lap, but Ferrari didn't celebrate it. They investigated it, because what Hamilton just saw in that lap should not be possible. Not at Suzuka, not under these rules. While every car on the grid was losing energy, hitting super clipping, dropping speed exactly where it matters, McLaren didn't. They stayed flat, consistent, almost unaffected, and Ferrari noticed immediately, because their own car was doing the exact opposite, losing power, losing speed, losing the lap. And that's where things get serious, because this isn't about aerodynamics. It's not just setup, it's something deeper, something built into how the car uses energy, something Ferrari tried to fix and couldn't. And if McLaren has solved this, even partially, then this isn't just a fast lap. It's a massive advantage, the kind that decides races, maybe championships. So before we break this down, subscribe to the channel, because what Hamilton and Ferrari just discovered might be the real reason behind McLaren's dominance. At first, it didn't make sense, because when you look at the timing screens, Ferrari doesn't look far off. 5th, 6th, still the 3rd fastest team. But when you look deeper, the gap is not just there, it's growing. And that's what caught Hamilton's attention, because this isn't a normal deficit. This isn't just losing time in one corner, or missing a bit of grip. This is something happening across the entire lap. Subtle, consistent, and impossible to ignore. Let's break it down. Through the first sector, the S-curves, Ferrari is strong, almost identical to Mercedes. Balanced, stable, confident on entry. No problem there. That part of the car works. But then the lap continues, and everything starts to change. As the speed increases, as the load builds, the Ferrari begins to lose something. Not grip, energy. You can see it. Not visually, but in behavior. The car exits corners well, but doesn't accelerate the same way. It reaches the straight, but doesn't carry the same speed. And then comes the critical point. After 130R, this is where everything is decided, because this is where most cars run out of energy. And Ferrari? They hit it hard, super clipping, earlier than anyone else, stronger than anyone else. And once it starts, the lap is already compromised. Now compare that to Piastri. Same section, same conditions, same track, but completely different result. No sudden drop, no visible loss, just continuous acceleration. And that's the moment Ferrari realized something was wrong. Because this isn't a small difference. This is structural. It's built into how the car behaves. And Hamilton felt it instantly. Because drivers don't just see lap times. They feel the loss. That moment where the car stops giving, where the power fades, where the lap slips away. And when you compare that feeling to what another car is doing, the difference becomes obvious. That's why Ferrari started digging. Not into setup, into data, energy deployment curves, recovery rates, throttle traces, trying to understand one thing. Why does McLaren not lose what everyone else loses? And this is where the answer starts to form. Because Ferrari already knows their limitation. Their power unit. Less efficient energy recovery. More aggressive super clipping. They've tried to compensate. New strategies. More aggressive harvesting. Different gear usage. Pushing the system to its limit. But even at the limit, they can't replicate what they saw. And that's the key. Because if two cars follow the same rules, but one behaves differently, then something in the system is fundamentally better. Not illegal, not obvious, just better. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because it's not something you can fix overnight. It's not a setup change. It's not a small adjustment. It's a philosophy, a way of managing energy that Ferrari hasn't unlocked yet. And that's why this moment matters so much. Because Ferrari didn't just see they are slower. They understood where. They understood why. And most importantly, they understood that the gap is not random. It's engineered. And that changes everything. Because now, the battle is no longer about who finds more grip. It's about who controls energy better. And right now, that advantage doesn't belong to Ferrari. And this is where the situation becomes uncomfortable. Because once Ferrari understood the problem, they also understood the consequence. This is not a gap you close overnight. This is not something you fix with setup. This is built into the DNA of the car. And that's why Hamilton's reaction matters so much. Because he didn't sound frustrated. He sounded aware. Aware that the car feels good. Aware that the balance is there. Aware that in pure cornering, they are competitive. But also aware that something fundamental is missing. Because when a driver says the car feels good and still loses almost a full second, that's not a driving issue. That's not even a setup issue. That's a system issue. And Ferrari knows it. That's why they tried something different, something almost desperate, changing how they harvest energy, running higher revs in slower sections, sacrificing small gains to build something bigger later in the lap. It's a trade. Lose a little now, gain more later. But even that wasn't enough, because the problem isn't just how much energy they have, it's how efficiently they use it. And that's where McLaren made the difference. Because it's not about having more energy, it's about losing less of it. That's the key. Minimizing the drop, delaying the clipping, extending the performance window. And that's exactly what Ferrari saw in that lap. A car that stays within its optimal window, longer than anyone else. And that changes everything. Because once you stay in that window, every straight becomes faster. Every exit becomes stronger. Every lap becomes cleaner. And suddenly, 7/10 is not surprising anymore. It's inevitable. Now here's where this connects to something even bigger. Because Mercedes shows the same behavior. Different car, different philosophy, same result. Efficient energy usage, minimal losses, stable performance across the lap. And Ferrari? They are stuck managing the problem instead of eliminating it. And that's the difference between fighting for wins and chasing the podium. Because one team is optimizing performance, the other is compensating for weakness. And that's a completely different starting point. So now Ferrari faces a very specific dilemma. Do they keep pushing this concept and try to evolve it? Or do they accept that something deeper needs to change? Because if this is truly a limitation of the power unit, or the way it integrates with the car, then this isn't a short-term problem. It's a development problem. And development takes time. Time they don't have in the middle of a race weekend. So for now, they adapt, they manage, they look for opportunities elsewhere. Tire degradation, race pace, strategy. Because over one lap, the answer is already clear. But over a race, there is still uncertainty. And that's where Ferrari is holding on. Because if Suzuka becomes a race of management, not just outright speed, then this gap can shrink. Not disappear, but shrink. Enough to fight, enough to stay relevant. But here's the part that ties everything together. Because what Hamilton and Ferrari found was not just a weakness in their car. It was a strength in someone else's. A strength that explains everything we saw. The lap time, the consistency, the confidence. And once you see it, you can't ignore it. Because now every lap from McLaren, every run from Mercedes, will be viewed differently. Not just as fast, but as efficient. And efficiency is what wins under this regulation. So now the question changes. It's no longer, how do Ferrari go faster? It becomes, how do you beat a car that simply loses less than you do? And that is a much harder problem to solve. And this is where everything shifts completely. Because once you understand that the gap is about energy, you start seeing the entire weekend differently. Piastri's lap is no longer just impressive. It becomes logical. Every corner, every straight, every sector starts to make sense. Because now you know what to look for. Not speed, efficiency. And that changes how you read everything. Take the second sector, the fastest part of Suzuka. Long corners, high commitment, no margin for error. This is where cars usually suffer, where energy drains the most, where drivers have to manage. But McLaren? They didn't manage. They attacked, flat, committed, clean. And that tells you something critical. They trust the system. They know the energy will be there. They know the car won't drop unexpectedly. And that confidence is worth tenths on its own. Because when a driver doesn't have to think about saving energy, they can focus entirely on extracting performance. That's what Ferrari doesn't have. That's what Hamilton felt. Because every time he approaches those sections, there's a question in his mind. Will the power be there, or will it drop? And that hesitation, even if it's small, costs time. Now multiply that over an entire lap, and the gap becomes real. But here's where it gets even more important. Because this doesn't just affect qualifying. It affects the race in a completely different way. Because over one lap, you can push everything to the limit. You can accept the risk. But over a full race distance, energy management becomes everything. Consistency matters more than peak performance. And this is where Ferrari sees a window. Because while McLaren is efficient and Mercedes is controlled, Ferrari is stable. Their tire degradation is strong. Their long-run pace is consistent, and that opens a possibility, because if others push too hard, if they rely too much on that efficiency, if conditions change, track temperature, grip levels, wind, then that perfect balance can be disrupted. And when that happens, the advantage shrinks, not disappears, but shrinks. And that's all Ferrari needs. A smaller gap, a chance, because in Formula One, you don't always need the fastest car. You need the opportunity. And Ferrari is waiting for that moment. But here's the reality. Right now, they are reacting, not leading. They are analyzing, not controlling. And that's the difference. Because McLaren and Mercedes, they already understand their systems. They operate within them. They maximize them. Ferrari is still learning, still adapting, still trying to catch up. And that's why this discovery is so important. Because it defines the battlefield. It tells Ferrari exactly where they are losing. But it also tells them how difficult it will be to recover. Because solving this is not about pushing harder. It's about redesigning how the car thinks, how it uses energy, how it behaves under load. And that takes time. Weeks, months, maybe longer. So for now, they fight with what they have. They optimize the small details. They search for marginal gains, because that's all they can do. But underneath all of that, there's a bigger realization, one that changes the entire perspective of this season. Because if McLaren has truly mastered this, if Mercedes is already there, then the fight at the top is no longer about who is fastest. It's about who understands the new Formula One first. And Ferrari just realized they're not there yet. But now, they know exactly what they're chasing. And that might be the most important step of all. Because once you understand the problem, you're already closer to solving it. The only question now is, how long will it take before Ferrari turns that understanding into performance?